Good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and call this the City Council meeting for September 21st, 2009 to order. First thing on the agenda, as always, is the roll call and the determination of the quorum. Amber, if you would, please.
Waugh.
Here.
Martinson. Here. Quaker.
Here.
Costello.
Here.
LaCroix.
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Olson. Weifenbach.
Here.
Kroger. Hadcock.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good. Just a reminder, if you do have a cell phone, if you would please turn it to the vibrate or off or the I don't care if I might lose my cell phone today mode. I appreciate it. Also, if you're wishing to speak to any item on the agenda, we do have speaker request forms to your left, to our right, over on the media table. If you'd fill those out, put your name and also the item that you wish to speak to. That way, as we make our way down the agenda, we'll make sure that we recognize you. With that, we go to the pledge, the invocation. Tonight's invocation will be given by Brad Clausen from the Woolen Cord Ministry. So if everyone please rise, and then immediately we will follow that up with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, first we honor you as Lord and Creator of all, recognizing you as the author of all that is. Through Christ, you have enabled us to come to ask for help in doing what is right and just. You said in your word that righteousness exalts a nation, and we ask that you give this governing body wisdom to make good and just decisions that will protect this city from the unscrupulous and provide opportunities for the success of all its inhabitants. Please help the mayor and the council members to do their job with integrity and grace. Protect them from lies and deceit, and give them truth tellers to help them know what is right and just and true and fair, so that they may make good decisions that produce a safe city and a fair city. Lord, I want to ask you to encourage each of us to hear what Paul wrote, to not act out of selfish ambition or conceit, instead to humbly think of others as being better than ourselves, to not be concerned only about our own interests, but to be concerned about the interests of others. We are not wise or good enough to judge others' motives. We only see their actions, so help us to have our actions judged honorably and gracious by others. And to remember that as Christ set the example of what it means to serve, so we are to all called to serve also. Bless and protect their families, encourage them, and help them find peace in and out of the council chambers. Amen. So be it in Christ's name.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Whoa, hang on, let's turn your mic on.
Oh,
There you go, Pastor.
I just want to say thank you from the clergy for the service you do to the community.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, as always, is the adoption of the agenda. Do we need to add any items to tonight's agenda? If so, please turn on your light. Let's go to Alderman Lloyd LaCroix.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to item 86A, welcome to Dakota panel.
Got it? Any additional? Please turn on your light. Any additional items to be added to tonight's agenda? If not, the chair would look for a motion to approve the agenda as posted with the addition of 86A, which is a welcome to Dakota panel from Alderman Lloyd LaCroix. Do we have a second, please?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Takes us to the approval of the minutes. We're looking for a motion to approve the August 31st, the September 1st, 8th, and 14th special city council meetings and the September 8th regular council meeting.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That does take us to awards and recognition. And if I could have the folks from the Primo Quest team come up. Appreciate that. And let's see, is Matt here also? Matt, why don't you go ahead and come up too? Well, there again, it's always an honor to and a privilege to brag about some of the great athletes that we have here in Rapid City. And if you don't recall, not so long ago, we had literally what I would call a worldwide event in the Primo Quest. It was the Black Hills Primo Quest, and we were very fortunate to have a Team South Dakota do extremely well. So let me read this resolution, and I'm going to ask Matt to come up and just say a few words. It reads, whereas the City of Rapid City, South Dakota hereby recognizes the achievements of Team South Dakota finishing 14th in a field of 32 teams in the Primal Quest Badlands 2009 event. This outstanding team of Rapid City residents is the first home team to complete and place in 6 years of Primal Quest. And whereas Primal Quest Badlands 2009 is one of North America's premier adventure races with a 600-mile course, I don't think I can even walk that far, including some of the most difficult and diverse badland terrain, and the Rapid City natives met the demanding challenges and brought high honor to our community. And they have shown not only our community, but also the state of South Dakota and the entire country that what teamwork and commitment is all about. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Rapid City acting through Mayor Alan Hanks and the Common Council that the names of the Team South Dakota be kept as permanent record of the City of Rapid City, and that a copy of this resolution be furnished to each one of the team members with the official seal of the City of Rapid City. Congratulations, folks. I'm going to ask Matt Reed, who is the sports coordinator for the CBB, to just tell us a little bit about Primal Quest, and then I'll give you the opportunity if anybody would like to come up to the mic and say a few words.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, council and audience. Primal Quest was really a neat event for Rapid City in South Dakota. It was something we just kind of happened upon, and when I got the call back from them to say that they were interested in coming to South Dakota, it was kind of a shock. Right after that, Rick Emerson, my friend over here on the right, he and I went right to work on it. He started designing the course, and we decided that we really wanted to have a host team for South Dakota. So we put together sort of a request for proposal, if you will, and sent out some ads saying that we're looking for a team to represent the state. Before the ink was dry on the contract with Primal Quest, Gary Haven called me and said, we're in. He said, I'm putting together a team, and we would really like a shot at this. We had 3 teams apply, and Rick and a gal, Emily Curry from the state, and I went through and decided that these 3 individuals that you see here were one short tonight. Andrew Bussey couldn't make it because of a flight. But we decided that this was going to be the best team to represent us, and amazingly, for a team of people that had never competed in an adventure race, they did a wonderful, wonderful job. Finished 14th out of 32 teams, and we couldn't be more proud and honored to be with them. So, this is Gary Haven. He was the team captain, and the gentleman that called me up, Lisa Gustin, Eric Hansen, and Andrew Bussey couldn't be with us, but they were just the most outstanding athletes. And one last thing I want to say is I heard from several of the staff and race volunteers that were from all over the world that said, wow, we saw Team South Dakota on the course today, and they were smiling and happy and joking, and everyone else was arguing and bickering. And it just gives you an idea of what South Dakota values can do.
I should also mention the fact that not all teams even finished.
Yeah, in fact, do you guys remember how many teams actually did finish?
Third finish, full course third.
roughly 10 teams or so. And several, I think there were probably 8 or 9 teams that completely withdrew, some of them for medical reasons, some for others. But so it really, it's the best of the best in endurance athletes.
Gary, that one's for you. So council want to stand up behind you? We'll get a picture. Make sure that it's come over to you. Ready, Amber?
Just about, we're waiting for Bill to get in there. Okay, here we go, 1, 2, 3. I'll do one more just to be sure I got that. Okay. Should be good.
John, why don't you go ahead and come up if you would, please? One of the other honors we have once a month is to actually honor one of our veterans. And this is our September 2009 Veteran of the Month recognition. Let me read this and tell you a little bit about John Evans. In partnership with the Veterans Coordination Commission, we're pleased to present the September 2009 Veteran of the Month recognition to John D. Evans, Sr. John began his military career in 1956, entering the USAR, I assume that's Army Reserve. His active duty started in 1957 at Fort Leonard Wood and Fort Bragg, then on to Korea in 1958. John served in various locations throughout his military career, including several stateside bases, in addition to Korea, Germany, and Vietnam. He received an honorary discharge in 1967. His decoration medals include the National Defense, the Vietnam Campaign Medal, and the Vietnam Service Medal. John has been very active in the community, including serving as a sergeant for arms for the American Legion, the 2008-2009 chaplain for the Veterans of Foreign War, Rapid City Post 1273, chaplain for 2008-2009 for the Disabled American Veterans Chapter, Rapid City, and the 2008-2009 chaplain for the Veterans Coordination Committee. He has also spent many hours visiting the veterans in the local hospitals, as well as Hot Springs and Fort Meade. John, thank you for your service, and especially thank you for making sure you take care and give God's guidance to the veterans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. I'd just like to say I'd like to thank my comrades that gave me this honor tonight and put me in this situation. I'm very proud. I'm very happy. I would personally say that I wish I could speak to all the troops that are abroad and those that are coming back from foreign lands. The outfits like the DAV and the 40 and 8, and I got the VVA, and all these outfits are good. They're good for the soldiers. They help them in many ways. They help their families, and they get them situated back into life back in the States. So I plan to stay in this volunteer situation and do all I can for my fellow troops. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Come over here and let's get a picture. Chief, you want to go ahead and come up? see. Pam, go ahead and come up. One of the other honors we have is recognizing long-term employees. And Pamela Cowling is a long-term employee of the Rapid City Police Department. Come on up, Pam. Nice to see you. And I'm going to ask our Chief of Police, Steve Allender, to say a few words and give us a little bit of background about Pam's service.
Well, it's quite a privilege to honor Pam tonight. She's one of those employees that is not usually on the front page of the paper, but she's one of those folks that is very important to the operation. Of course, she keeps our time and makes sure that everyone gets paychecks. That's a big it's a big deal for us. Pam has worked. She comes to work every day. She works quietly, efficiently. She doesn't complain. She knows everything. She knows everybody. She doesn't forget anything, and we'd be lost without her. So congratulations on 20 years. Good job.
Well, thank you, everyone. We now move on to the general public comment period. This is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at tonight's meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by the unanimous vote of the council members present. I do not have anything under general public comment. Does anyone wish to speak to anything not on the agenda? If not, we'll move on. We are on to the non-public hearing items. This is items 4 through 86. The chair will look for a motion to open the public comment on items 4 through 67 inclusive, please. So, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We are in the public comment period for items 4 through 67 inclusive. I do have a speaker request form from Terry Cash on item number 6. Now, just a reminder, everybody, we do time this. There is 3 minutes allowed, and once you get up and identify yourself, we'll turn the lights on, and when it turns yellow, that means you have approximately 30 seconds. When it turns red, I will just ask you to please take the next 10 or 15 seconds to finish up your remarks. So with that, Mr. Cash, there again for the record, if you would identify yourself for the record.
Okay. My name is Terry Cash. I'm with Dream Design International. I'm here to have any on
You're just available for questions?
I'm just available for questions.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We also have a speaker request form on item number 7 from Sam Fisher. Very good, Mr. Fisher, if you just please identify yourself for the record.
Sure. Sam Fisher, Fisher Furniture, Rapid City, South Dakota. I'm here to speak to item number 7. I sent an email out this afternoon. If you had a chance to read it, I'd appreciate that. I'll give you a little background. For the past 15 years or so, Fisher Furniture has conducted a tent sale. We take a lot of items, that odds and ends, mismatch type items, and sell them in a tent. We set that up in between our gallery store and the Fisher Clearance Center store. It's in a right-of-way area that would extend Jackson Boulevard to Omaha Street if that ever went through. It's been taken off the city plan because cost-benefit concerns, but typically how it's gone is we've just always gone to the Public Works Committee and made an application to set up the tent in the right-of-way, and they've approved it, and we've done this for about 15 years. This year, Public Works voted unanimously to deny our application to set up the tent, and the reason conveyed to us was that typically approval processes for putting up structures in public right-of-way require some sort of public benefit. And I laid out a couple reasons at the end of my email why I feel like we do provide a public benefit. Probably the biggest one is that every year we basically maintain that lot other than the mowing. We do a lot of tree removal, brush removal, stump removal. We also snow blow the sidewalk whenever it snows, and we also pick up all the litter that crosses that lot. I'm not saying that we won't do that if we don't get to set up the tent, but it's always been kind of a thing where, you know, we do that and the city's recognized that public benefit and allowed us to set up the tent. Also, we've considered some other alternatives for setting up the tent. Mainly, they'd be setting it up in a parking lot that we own adjacent to where that grass lot is. I feel that there would be some public benefit from setting up the tent on the grass because it would allow traffic in that area to move as always, parking to function as it always does. And we all know that West Main area is real busy anyway, so any way that we can keep things functioning as normal, I feel is a public benefit. And finally, it just, to me, the use of that public area doesn't seem that dissimilar to other things that go on in the city in public areas, such as the farmers market, the Thursday evenings on 7th Street, sidewalk sales, sidewalk vendors, that sort of thing. I know that a lot of times those have special votes by the city council, so that's how they come to be, but the overall spirit of the events is similar to what we're doing, in my opinion. So I'd appreciate your reconsideration of the issue and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. We also have a speaker request form from Ron Davis, item number 61.
My name is Ron Davis, Davis Engineering. I have a plat going through right now, a preliminary plat, and I didn't make the deadline as of Wednesday at 4 o'clock on 2 or 3 items, and I have completed all those items as of at this time, and I would like to see you go ahead and approve this preliminary plat so I can get on with the construction. We're getting kind of late into the construction season, so if I could go ahead and get it approved, all the items are done, I would appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Davis. That is all the speaker request forms I had for items 4 through 67 inclusive. Did anyone else wish to speak to any of those items? We're dealing with items 4 through 67 inclusive. If not, the chair would look for a motion to close the public comment period.
So,
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. That does take us to the consent calendar. This is items 4 through 58 inclusive. 4 through 58 inclusive. Do we need to remove any of those items from it? I do have items 7 and 57 are the two that were passed along to me. Let's go to Alderman Bill Waugh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to have items 12, 13, and 14 pulled.
12, 13, and 14. Very well. Any additional items to be pulled from the consent calendar? Consent calendar includes all items 4 through 58 inclusive. If not, the chair would look for motion to approve the consent calendar, items 4 through 58 inclusive, with the exception of 7, 12, 13, 14, and 57.
So moved.
second.
Have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? Marcia, did you have anything else? Yes. The items for polling 7, 12, 13, 14, and 57. Okay, everyone clear on the motion? Did we have a motion and a second, Amber? Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. That does take us to item number 7, and we will go to the Public Works Chair, and that would be Alderman Aaron Costello. Could you please read in item number 7, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Item number 7 is to deny a request by Fisher Furniture to erect a tent in the public right-of-way at 1710 West Main Street beginning September 28, 2009 until October 11, 2009, and the City of Rapid City to be named as an additional insured. And I move for approval of the denial.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the motion on the floor, and that motion would be for the denial. Let's make sure everyone's clear on that motion. So the motion on the floor would be to deny this request. Let's take a couple lights. Let's go to Alderman Ron Kroger.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm going to speak against approval of denial. This is not your normal right-of-way that we're talking about. I mean, I know we've had the discussion over the years, and I believe Mr. Fisher said he's had this, or we've given him the ability to put this tent in that right-of-way for the past 15 years, and I'm certainly willing to continue to do that. Like you stated, this right-of-way actually is between, it's not sitting out alongside the street. It's basically a vacant lot that at some point in time will be used for maybe a road, but at this point in time it's not hurting anything. And you know, I mean, we have dual standards here sometimes, and I guess it's surprising that after 15 years we decide not to do it. But you know, we have allowed other things other than Mr. Fisher's tent in public right-of-way or on city property before, and actually one that I'm going to think about was just done here within the last year, and that was a tent for a wedding out at Canyon Lake. We allowed them to have the ability to set that tent up and keep it up overnight. You know, it's not that big of an issue. If this was in an area that was right adjacent to the road and this tent was sitting right next to the road, that's something, but sitting in between two lots, I have no problem with this, and I will not be supporting the motion to deny. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderman Lloyd LaCroix.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason why I supported the denial is, number one, you know, we had, during the rally, we were getting ready to approve a lot of different things, and a group come forward and wanted to do something in the right of way, and it was fought very hard, and a lot of the terms were brought up that we denied letting them do that. And we had a lot of other people come forward with parking and so forth, that we needed to be fair. And so I didn't support the motion on the floor. I told the city attorney I wanted to see the same effort brought forward on this property as they did on the denial of the last one. And that was my main reason. The second reason why is, you know, we just had the big accident in the gap, and you're talking about adding more distraction by having something up there. I know they've been doing it for years, but that doesn't make it right. And that's why I'll support the denial. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderwoman Deb Hadcock.
Jason, can you tell me the rules and why? I know you haven't been in favor of this in the past, and neither have I, so maybe you can tell them why we have that rule on the right-of-ways and why we don't let obstructions in the right-of-way.
Let's go to Jason Green, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I've forwarded to the council in the past, there is a statutory obligation to hold right-of-way in public trust for the benefit of the public as a whole and for no other use. This is certainly another use. It's a private commercial use of public right-of-way. The council's obligations with regard to right-of-way differ from other city-owned land, such as parkland, because you can certainly authorize other uses in parkland so long as they're consistent with the park purpose. So that would account for the farmer's market and a tent that would support the wedding reception that was mentioned. One of the other things that gets brought up is the Thursday night event, Summer Nights on 7th Street. That's an event that's more akin to a parade than a private commercial venture. Anyone in the public can go to that. People can set up all kinds of things there simply by agreeing with the terms of the council's approval. It's not for the benefit of one particular business. It's for the use of the public as a whole, all at the same time. Those are the differences. The primary one to keep in mind, though, is the council's statutory obligation in this case.
Thank you, Jason.
You still have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. LaCroix is right, President LaCroix. I think safety first on this road. It seems like it only takes once to have an accident, and we want to make sure at this point we're not liable. So this is in our right-of-way, and like I said, it takes once, and I think it's just common sense at this point not to take the liability into our hands, even though they have some insurance in this case. It seems like others have had insurance, but it seems to always come back to the city. So I'll be voting no on this issue.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderman Sam Quaker.
Thank you, Mayor.
Jason, help me understand how this differs from a sidewalk vendor. Sidewalks are in the right-of-way also.
Let's go to Jason Green, City Attorney.
There is specific statutory authorization that permits the council to license and permit sidewalk vendors. There's no such similar authority for general commercial operations within public right-of-way.
Okay. And then I have a question either for you, Jason, or for our Growth Management Director, Marcia Elkins. This piece of property, does it have, it's being held for possible extension of Jackson Boulevard? Is that the sole reason for owning it?
Let's try Marcia Elkins first, Growth Management Director.
Yes, we completed the Jackson Boulevard study to see if it made sense to extend that at this point in time. The study indicated the cost-benefit ratio did not justify it. However, the study did recommend that it be maintained as right-of-way because at some time in the future, this may be one of the only few options we have to relieve the traffic in the gap.
Alderman Quigg, you still have the floor.
Okay. So it sounds like what you're saying is you recommend keeping the land in city ownership rather than selling it someday, putting it back on the tax rolls.
I would strongly recommend that you maintain this as right-of-way for future needs.
Okay. So does the maintenance benefit that Mr. Fisher brought up, does that is not a public benefit in your opinion?
Let's go to Jason Green, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. No, it is not. We have an ordinance that requires all property owners to maintain the sidewalks that are adjacent to their property. In addition, property owners are required to maintain right-of-way that contains, plant life, trees, grass, those sorts of things that are adjacent to the property and that are not inconsistent with the character as a right-of-way easement. So that's not going to push it over the public hurdle in my mind.
One last question.
Go ahead,
there.
please.
Jason, to your knowledge, have there been any issues or complaints that have resulted over the years from the use of this property for this particular sale?
Let's go to Jason Green, City Attorney.
I can't think of any specifics. It seems like there has been a complaint or two, but I couldn't specifically identify it. So I don't have enough information to answer the question.
Okay. Alderman Quigg, you still have the floor if you'd like it, sir.
This is a difficult issue. I think we also want to remind the council too that there is a benefit which might not legally fit into your framework of the definition of a benefit, but there are sales taxes that are generated from sales like this, and perhaps if we could find a way in the future to work out uses of the right-of-way either through a permitting process or an 11-6-19 review process, or amending state code to give us a little bit more flexibility, that would, I think, be beneficial for everyone involved. I'm not sure that I see a public safety risk hasn't been presented to me yet in terms of using this this property, but I do recognize the need to be consistent with other uses of the right-of-way.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderman Aaron Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too voted for denial of this in the Public Works Committee, and it hinged mainly on what we've heard from the City Attorney and Council President LaCroix's point of view on what Alderman Quaker talked about, consistency with how we deal with these public right-of-ways. I understand that the Fishers are an excellent business. They give a lot back to the community, and we really appreciate that. I've been to this tent sale for years, and it always does very well. And the issue of sales tax was brought up. One of the images that were supplied to us through our email was of an alternative site, which was right in front of the clearance center. And if just my quick thumb of measurement of the two circles comparatively, it looks like there's about the same size. And I have confidence in your business that you will do well. And in this, we'll be preserving and setting the standard for the use of public lands for tents, especially when it comes to rally time, as Alderman LaCroix mentioned, because everybody wants to put up a tent to try and sell something around rally time. And every time we let that happen, it's just one more reason for them to convince us to let it happen again. So I will be voting in support of the denial. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? The motion on the floor is to approve the recommendation to deny the request by Fisher Furniture to erect a tent in the public right-of-way at 1710 West Main Street. Any additional discussion? Any additional discussion? Seeing none, everyone clear on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's take a quick roll call, please. The motion on the floor, if you voted aye, you were voting to uphold the motion to deny. If you voted no, you're voting to, in essence, vote against that motion and probably allow it in the future. So, everyone clear on the motion? Do we need to go ahead and do the roll call? They can clarify the vote.
Costello.
Aye.
LaCroix. Chapman.
Aye.
Weifenbach. No. Kroger.
No.
Adcock.
Aye.
Waugh.
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
Quaker.
Aye.
It's 7-2.
Motion passes 7-2. Thank you, everyone. That takes us to item number 12. And Alderman Costello, if you could please read in item number 12, please.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Item number 12 is to authorize the mayor and finance office to sign a purchase agreement between the City of Rapid City and Red Rock Development LLC for the purchase of a well lot. I move for approval.
We have a motion, second for approval. Discussion on that motion. Let's go to Alderman Bill Waugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like the record to show that I will be abstaining on items 12, 13, and 14 for voting purposes and for discussion, as I am a employee of the Red Rock Golf Shop. Thank you.
Very good. We'll so note. Any further discussion? The motion on the floor is for approval. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes with Alderman Bill Waugh abstaining. And could you read in item number 13, please?
Yes, sir. Item number 13 is to approve authorization to prepare H lot and acceptance of deed for well and well lot. I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, second for approval. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes with Alderman Bill Waugh abstaining. Item number 14, please.
Item number 14 is authorize the mayor and finance officer to sign a water service agreement between the City of Rapid City and Red Rocks Golf Club, and I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, second for approval. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes with Alderman Bill Waugh abstaining. We are on to item number 57. And Mr. Costello, could you go ahead and read that in, please? And then we'll give you a recommendation for a motion.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Item number 57 is to approve a request by the City of Rapid City for an amendment to the adopted comprehensive plan to change the land use designation from general commercial with a planned commercial development to public, the 100-foot wide railroad right-of-way located east of South Valley Drive and south of South Dakota Highway 44, and I yield to the floor.
Okay, my understanding is this is a public hearing, so Jason, is my understanding we need to open up the public hearing, ask for public comment, and then close it? That's what we need to do? Okay. Chair would look for a motion to open the public hearing on item number 57. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I do not have a speaker request form on item number 57. Anyone wish to speak to item number 57? This is the public hearing for the amendment to the adopted comprehensive plan to change the land use designation from general commercial to a planned commercial development to public. And this is located on South Valley Drive and south of South Dakota Highway 44. If not, Chair would look for a motion to close the public hearing for item number 57.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? I'm sorry, Aaron Costello, did you want to talk about? Okay. Let's go to Alderman Aaron Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is for Jason Green. As far as the public hearing item and the time spans to which it should be open, does this suffice, or is this a case where we need to send this out? I mean, I realize it's on the agenda, but what is your opinion of our actions here?
Let's go to Jason Green, City Attorney.
I believe this suffices. The public has had their opportunity. The fact that there's nobody here to speak to it, doesn't require the council to extend that opportunity at all. You've met your statutory obligation.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that. Okay, so motion on the floor is to close the public hearing. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Marcia, did you have a recommendation for approval, I assume?
Planning Commission recommends approval. Thank you.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. That does take us to the end of the consent calendar. We're on to the continued consent items. This is items 59 through 67 inclusive. Does anyone from the council or from the staff wish to have any item 59 through 61 inclusive pulled? I do see, Marcia, item 61, correct?
Correct.
Any other items? Please turn on your light. Now, the chair look for a motion to approve the continued consent items, items 59 through 67, with the exception of item 61 per the recommendations on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Let's go to item number 61. Mr. Costello, could you please read that in?
Certainly. Item number 61 is a request by Davis Engineering Incorporated for a layout and preliminary plat on lots 3R, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the Murphy Ranch Estates Division, located southeast of the intersection of Springfield Road and Knuckle Duster. And I yield to the floor.
Knuckle Duster. Okay. Okay, Marcia, what's your recommendation?
As per the council's direction, I must tell you that this was not completed by 4 p.m. on Wednesday. However, if the council wishes, you may approve this with stipulations.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item number 61, approval with stipulations. This is a layout and preliminary plat. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. That does take us to the end of the continued consent items. We're on to the non-consent items. These are items 68 through 86 inclusive. Chair would look for a motion to open the public comment period on items 68 through 86 inclusive, please. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. I do have a speaker request form on items number 76 and item number 77. Royal Nielsen. There again, Mr. Nielsen. We know who you are, but if you could identify yourself for the record, and then the floor is yours, sir.
I'm Royal Nielsen, Nielsen Construction, on the rezoning of my property out there. I have my family with me here tonight to represent us on, it affects a lot of people. I want to thank the council, everybody for working with me on it. I hope I can get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We also have a speaker request form from Ted Schultz on items. You have a number of items here. Let's split this up. Item 76 and item 77, and we'll come back to you on 104 and 105 at that time, Ted. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ted Schultz, CTEC Engineering Services, representing Mr. Nielsen on his property zoning comprehensive plan amendment. These two items are comprehensive plan amendments. Later, 104 and 105 will be rezoning. And Mr. Nielsen has submitted a letter to you, I believe you all received. And I'm just going to hit a couple of the highlights. One of the items is he was recently annexed into the city limits. As you know, this item has been discussed in the past. He has agreed to clean up the property as he proceeds on with his projects and his future development. He's clarified and modified the zoning to include some low-density residential in the north end, which is the area of concern. In the center, he's asking for light industrial, and on the south, adjacent to the Highway 44, general commercial. So one of the other items that would happen in the future as his development proceeds is sanitary sewer service up through the center of his property from Highway 44 north to the upper end of the property in the LDR. This would allow about 3 or 4 homes to connect to central sewer. They're currently on septic systems in that area. So these are some items that I can address later if you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. I do not have any additional speaker request forms on items 68 through 86. Does anyone else in the audience wish to speak to items 68 through 86 inclusive? If not, the chair would look for a motion to close the public comment period.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We're on to the ordinances. Item number 68. Tonight, Alderwoman Deb Hadcock will read this in. Alderwoman Karen Olson is actually gone this evening, and Alderman Weifenbach is a little under the weather and a little bit hoarse. So, Deb, if you go ahead and read this in.
Thank you, Mayor Hanks. First reading of ordinance number 5539, an ordinance to provide a dual notice provision to Chapter 8.16 of the Rapid City Municipal Code relating to nuisances, and I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion second for approval. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 69, please.
69 is first reading of ordinance number 5540, an ordinance amending Chapter 8.28 of the Rapid City Municipal Code relating to grass and weeds, and I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion second for approval. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item 70, please.
Number 70 is first reading of ordinance number 5541, an ordinance to revise the method of removal of junk motor vehicles from private property by amending Chapter 10.56 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion second for approval. Item number 70, which is the first reading of ordinance 5541. Any discussion on that motion? Motion is for approval. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 71, please.
71 is the first reading of ordinance number 5542, an ordinance to provide a penalty for failure to remove snow and ice from sidewalks by amending Section 12.20.070 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion second for approval. First reading ordinance 5542. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 72, please.
Number 72 is the first reading of ordinance number 5543, an ordinance amending Section 17.06 of the Chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, rezoning with the within described property as requested by Glenn Elshire for a rezoning from General Commercial District to Light Industrial District located at 2507 East St. Patrick Street. And I move approval.
We have a motion second for approval for first reading of ordinance 5543. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 73, please.
73 is the second reading of ordinance 5535, an ordinance regarding supplemental appropriation number 5 for 2009, and I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second of second reading of ordinance 5535, which is a supplemental appropriation number 5 for 2009. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 74, please.
Number 74 is the second reading of ordinance number 5533, an annual appropriation ordinance of FY 2010, and I move with the changes the council did at the work group and also at the legal and finance recommendations. So I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Just for clarification, on your link, you actually have 2 links. One is the ordinance as first approved by first reading, and the second link is the ordinance as recommended by the council work group and legal and finance committee. And the motion by Alderman Hadcock was to approve the version that reads ordinance as recommended by the council work group and legal and finance. Everyone clear on that motion? Discussion on that motion. Let's go to Mr. Preston, City Finance Officer.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor has pointed out, there are 2 ordinances on there. I would ask that the motion maker, whichever ordinance that you make a motion on, we did receive updated figures from the county auditor on the property tax far as growth and the tax on utilities. There would be an additional $54,164 that I would like to have you include on the revenue side for the property tax. That is, again, from utilities and growth. We did receive some updated figures Friday. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, is
With
that
the
all right
up-
with the motion maker?
With the updated changes,
Yep,
sir.
and the seconder. There again, just for clarification, that is additional revenue from growth
And
utilities.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Does not deal with the CPI. Okay. Discussion on that motion. Let's go to Alderman Malcolm Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I asked at both the work session and I mentioned again at Legal and Finance that understanding that these are extraordinary times that people are going through, and also understanding that how important the CPI is to further growth of the city and what that impacts in terms of keeping with inflation. I asked that we look a little bit more creatively, and I asked our city attorney to check into if there was some way that the city could take the CPI and abate that or rebate it back to the citizens of Rapid City, and he was going to come forward with a response to that. So I'd like to hear that.
Okay, let's go to our city attorney, Jason Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first question we looked at was whether or not the council had the authority to establish a rebate program, just as simply as that. And we were unable to locate any specific authority that would authorize that. And in the absence of authority, as you're all aware, Dillon's rule says you don't have authority to take that action. So we don't believe that there is any authority for the council to establish a rebate program. When we were unable to locate any specific authority for it, we looked at the authority the council does have, which includes the ability to do abatements of portions of the property tax. And we looked at all of the reasons the council can do an abatement of property tax, and we were not able to fit the proposal into any one of those specific reasons. The language of the statute is very clear that you can only do an abatement for one of the statutory reasons. So I don't think there's any wiggle room there to try and craft a creative remedy in this particular case. The tax statutes are pretty rigid in their application. So I don't believe there's legal authority to do a rebate or an abatement that's in the style of a rebate.
Very good. Alderman Malcolm Chapman, you still have the floor, sir.
I'll turn away from our city attorney for a moment then and maybe address our finance officer. Is there any such program in the state that would allow municipalities then to bank the CPI, as some counties might have the authority to do?
Let's go to Jim Preston, our city finance officer.
Thank you, Mayor. Currently, there is non-state statute. As you alluded to, the counties can abate up to 3 years or a maximum of 10%. In other words, if they don't take the CPI this year, they could add that to their request next year. The same thing as applies to the fire district. I shared that information with the city attorney, and I believe he agrees with that assessment on where we're at with that.
Still have the floor, sir.
My comments will be brief. I think the mayor proposed a budget. I have to say, at some level, I disagree with how maybe it came forward without the CPI. I think that puts the council in a difficult position sometimes. But seeing that these are extraordinary times, I think it's important that as every other rate goes up for citizens, even if it's a small amount of money, I think it's important that some entity step forward and say, it's important enough during these times to give something back or not to take something for the citizens. And as a result, I supported during the work session not to take the CPI this year, even though every other year I have been adamant about taking the CPI. My concerns in where I said I'm a little disappointed in how it came forward is that a year ago we had this very discussion that the mayor didn't include the CPI because he said that he wanted to make sure it was an important issue, and the council had discussion about that issue. And I said at that time, I'm not up for re-election. I will be on the council a year from now to have that discussion, so I'll guarantee that the council will have that discussion, and it wasn't included. I think it's not going to hurt the city dramatically this year not to take the CPI, but my concern is 2011 or 2010, 2011, 2012, the missed opportunity to have that money as a part of the base of the property tax, because in those years we're due to open a new fire station. Where is that money going to come from if we aren't able to keep property tax adjusted to inflation or with the CPI? So I have some concerns of how we're doing this year, but because of the extraordinary times that we're in, I think it's more important this year to give something back or not take something from the citizens of Rapid City. Having said that, I think overall, I think people, everyone, the mayor, the city council, played within the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish this year in terms of coming forward with a very conservative budget because of the times. And I think that everybody worked hard and came to play within the spirit by not adding things to the budget this year. So despite the fact that I said I'm a little disappointed in terms of how things come forward, I think we're overall on the right track in terms of how we played this year, and I will support the second reading of Ordinance 5533.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderman Sam Quaker.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for our City Finance Officer, Jim Preston. At the work session last week, we talked about the cost of the vehicle expenses for the mayor's office vehicle. Currently, that is coming out of the police department budget, and I think you were going to bring forward some numbers tonight as to where that money would be allocated if the council so chose to have that come out of the mayor council cost center instead.
Yep, let's go to Jim Preston. I believe it's actually on the link, Alderman Quaker. But let's go to Jim Preston for...
Thank you, Mayor. You are correct. It is
okay.
on the attachment. It does break it out, but essentially I can share that with you.
That's okay. I see. I'm sorry.
You see it there?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't need me to go through that.
So if I could just summarize, Mayor?
Please.
So the motion that's on the floor does recommend moving those dollars to the, okay, very good, to the mayor's office budget, okay?
Yep.
And then I have another item that I would like to bring up, and I want to thank Alderman Hadcock for bringing this up in the initial work sessions a month or so ago, and that is, the question was raised as to whether the 43.3% increase in mayor council travel is appropriate for 2010. I do not believe that that now is the time to increase the mayor council travel budget by 43%. So I would like to offer a motion, an amendment to the motion on the floor to keep the mayor council travel budget at $25,000, exactly the same as 2009.
Okay, what we'll do is we will, I think about this, we'll treat this as an amendment. So we'll vote on the amendment, and then we'll come back to the original motion, whether it's amended or not. Everyone clear on the motion? Mm-hmm. So do we have a second? Do we have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. We're back to the original motion. Discussion on the original motion. Let's go to Alderwoman Deb Hadcock.
I'd like to thank the council, Mr. Weifenbach. He has pushed this from the beginning, and I think it's a positive. Not taking the CPI. I think the mayor's zero growth budget proved that the city can get by without the extra CPI money. I think for the future, it's only a positive impact for the citizens of Rapid City. We're doing something and thinking out of the box. I think this council has done well, and it's very positive in a lot of ways. So I appreciate Mr. Weifenbach's work on this, and thank you, council.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderman Lloyd LaCroix.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank the council for all the hard work they've done on this. I don't agree with the second reading of the changes in the ordinance. I agree with the first reading of the ordinance because I felt the group as a whole was making good progress and moving forward when they decided to take the CPI but not allocate it to anything, but to wait and see how sales tax come in and then actually sit back and see if they could use it or not. That's what I thought was really good change for this council because it already showed our sales tax was coming in $300,000 short so far this year, and the council was very cautious with that. I still have concerns with some of the unfunded stuff that's going to be coming up in 2010, 2011. As Mr. Chapman said, that's when it will affect us. You know, we had some discussions on the Humane Society. I have some big concerns with detox, funding detox. That's a matching one. And so, I'm going to vote against the amended ordinance just because I felt the first ordinance was good. I thought the council was going to work good with that, and we were actually going to sit back and wait and look and use it wisely and have great discussion and make plans for it, something that we'd never done before in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Alderman Bill Waugh.
Thank you, Mayor. This was the fifth budget session that I've sat through, and I will have to admit right up front that it was a little smoother than in some previous ones, but I think there is some room for adjustments to the way we handle the budget, and I'm looking forward to future work sessions with my fellow councilmen on how we can make the budget process a little bit more streamlined. I will compliment the staff and the folks in Rapid City that helped with the putting together of this budget, and I compliment the mayor for bringing forward a zero growth budget. As everyone up here knows, I was in favor of keeping the CPI in the budget, and I'm still in favor of that for many reasons that have already been mentioned, so I won't rehash them. But as I talked to citizens in Rapid City, many contacted me personally, some called me, some sent me emails. And as I tabulated the thoughts that were coming to me, it was about a 50-50, which surprised me. 50% of the folks thought we should keep the CPI because the city is growing. And I'm not a proponent of big government. But I think in some areas, the city government is in a catch-up mode. And by taking away the CPI, we're going to continue to play catch-up, not only in our street repairs, in our parks, in other areas of city. But I will vote for the amended version because the overall budget is a good budget. But I just wanted everybody to know that I'm not happy not taking the CPI. And I'm sure I will catch a little grief for that, but I will vote for the budget as amended. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderman Ron Kroger.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to state that I will be in support of second reading of the ordinance, but I too have to say that I have some big concerns of us not taking the CPI. You know, it is a small dollar amount, but as we've discussed in our meetings, that you know that dollar amount gets larger every year, and even though it is a small amount this year, it's going to be a larger amount that we're going to be missing in a few years' time, and it does put us in the hole, and it puts, I believe, future council members in kind of a quandary of how they're going to approve future budgets because of what we've done. But like I said, I will be supporting the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderman. Let me ask a procedural question. Does anyone wish to speak for the first time before Alderman Malcolm Chapman speaks for a second time? If so, please turn on your light. Let's go to Alderman. Have you spoken yet, Boyd? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go to Alderman Malcolm Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things. One, I think might have heard someone say that they're not going to support the amended the ordinance as recommended by the council work group and legal and finance. Just you vote the way you want to vote individually, but just to put it out there, what you're saying overall is that you're not going to support the budget for the city of Rapid City for 2010. So I just throw a caution out there for those who might be thinking about that. It's larger than just one small issue. That's a piece of it, and I've heard a couple of council members say that they might be disappointed in this or that, but that's what I think this is about. It's about the art of the possible, of where we can get to, and I think this is where we are, and this is part of our responsibility to approve a balanced budget for the city of Rapid City. The next thing I'll say, and this is really after we approve the budget, I've talked since I've been on the council that the city council, and I'm not talking about the mayor now, I'm talking about the city council, to be able to get ahead of this process, this budgetary process. Council President LaCroix and I have talked about the importance of the council sitting down shortly after we approve this and going back into budget mode again, not looking at numbers, but looking at visionary things in terms of the council, what the council would like to see the mayor and department heads discuss next year as they get together. We need to do that prior to the end of this year, and I think give some guidance to the mayor to say these are the things that are important for the council to see as Rapid City continues to grow. So I look forward to getting with council members to schedule those meetings to be able to do that after we approve the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderman Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it if somebody gives me a little bit. I'm under the weather today, and so I haven't really talked much, but I find that this is important, and not to reiterate anything that anybody has said tonight, but the council has put a lot of work in changing the budget process. I have no concern of how we will meet our budget next year. I think that the process that we are heading down, this is the first step in the process of looking into the budget and dismantling pieces of the budget and finding out where we have opportunities to synergize, make our departments better, make ourselves more cost effective for our constituents. And I believe that this is the first step in that process. And I'm excited that we're going to move forward without taking the property tax increase. It may sound like a small sum to a lot of people, but it is a large sum to some people. And it also sets a message to our constituents that we are willing to do the hard work that we are challenged with moving forward from this point forward. And in a couple of years in the past, when we started these conversations, probably about 2 years ago, we have a council in place that I feel confident that it can make those decisions and look at those opportunities and meet those challenges in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. I'm looking at the board here. I believe everyone's had the opportunity to speak once, so I'm just going to stay in order here. Let's go to Alderman Lloyd LaCroix.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Vice President Mr. Chapman is right. I kind of threw that out that I would vote against it, hoping someone would make an amendment to go back to the first one. I see there was no support. So I'm not going to vote against the budget. I mean, I'm really not. I mean, it was presented to us as balanced, and I'm disappointed with some of the stuff that we couldn't, but maybe we can work on those later on through the year to find some cuts or some recommendations to help those other agencies out that I think we so much need to do. But I'll reiterate, this council, this year worked hard on this budget as far as being open-minded, discussion. Bottom line, I think the way the economy is, everything they brought up come from their heart, and I believe that the number one thing is that's the way it was presented. As Mr. Chapman said, if you believe something's important, you need to add it to the budget with the CPI. If it's not added and left for us to do, then we took the balanced budget, and we weren't going to vary on that. But I'll just reiterate, the council did a good job, and I look forward to the work that we're going to do the fourth quarter of this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderman Sam Quaker.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that the council is about to make a very good decision to not increase property taxes. Alderman LaCroix talks about voting against the budget. There's no shame in that. I voted against a number of budgets, but this year I'm going to vote for this one. I still believe that the city budget is an old farmhouse that's been added on to too many times, and there's there's still work that needs to be done down the line to correct that. There's several things that I do disagree with this budget. One of the issues that I disagree with is that this included a growth factor, but was presented as a no growth budget. I think that that was a mistake to adjust the revenue stream, but yet to present it as a no growth budget. I think that that will bear itself out over the coming year, and hopefully revenues do come up. But we are 3% down now, and my concern is that that number may not improve, at least in the first part of 2010. I also disagree with including the 43.3% increase in the mayor-council travel budget, and I also disagree with including mayor-council salary increases in the budget. And I do reserve the right, I'll let my colleagues know now, I reserve the right to bring up both of those items later on, and when those items come through. So, but again, I think that we are sending the right message by not taking the property tax increase, and there is no such thing, I don't think, as an absolutely perfect budget. This still has some flaws in it, but I think we are making a very good decision by not increasing property taxes for 2010. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Alderwoman Deb Hadcock.
I think this is a good way for the council and the mayor to work better as a team, working on the budget that the mayor had put forth, and doing the same thing that we've done with our own budgets. We've based this year, hopefully in the next few years, on priority of the city taxpayers of Rapid City and spending their money wisely. I think we always have done that, but this even makes it a little bit tighter. A lot of families in Rapid City have to tighten their budgets based on water, sewer, and garbage rates that have went up, based on school and county taxes. I'm sure the school will have to raise their taxes as well to pay for their bond. The county has raised theirs. This is a positive for the taxpayers. I can tell you I work in a beauty shop, and there has been many positive people on this. I hadn't heard anybody that said, and I can honestly say, because some people say it's the way you put it, they came up to me and thought this was a very positive. So I think this council is making, again, a very positive step forward, and this is based on taxpayers and meeting the challenges for government and doing a very good job of it. I think, again, it's going to base it on priorities, and that's an awesome thing for us to do. And the mayor as well has done a good job at making sure that we are going to spend this money wisely. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further lights? Motion on the floor is for approval per the recommendation from the Working Committee and Legal and Finance. I do think that we do need to have a couple of clarifications. There was a comment that the council and the mayor's salary increases are included in this budget. That is not correct. By resolution, that is a separate discussion we have every single year, so I want to make sure that clarification's out there. The other thing is, since this is in essence a proposed budget that I move forward, this is a no-growth budget. If you look at the expense side of the ledger, it is actually $67 less for the 2010 than the 2009 budget. When you're looking at whether or not a budget is growing, the simplest thing to do is look at your expenses, because it's all based on what you spend. Very good. Seeing no further lights, the motion on the floor is for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for the discussion, everyone. Item number 75. Deb, if you please read that in.
Sorry, lost focus there for me. Second reading of ordinance number 5534, an ordinance allowing department directors to enter into contracts up to $25,000 with a single vendor without prior city council approval by amending section 3.04.090 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We're on to growth management items. Item number 76. Deb, you want to go ahead and read that in, please?
Number 76 is a request by City of Rapid City for an amendment to the adopted comprehensive plan to change the land use designation from low-density residential to general commercial located west of Valley Drive and north of South Dakota Highway 44. I yield to the floor.
Could we have a motion, please? Marcia, what's the recommendation?
Mr.
Go ahead.
Mayor, if I could take a little license here. We've had some discussions with Mr. Nielsen, and I spoke with him right before the meeting. This is the map that identifies the changes that you've previously approved in the area and what his request is. However, in visiting with him right before the meeting, again, he'd like to see this light industrial line moved to this location, and so that would square off the light industrial. If it's the council's direction, that this is the plan you'd like to see with that minor change, staff would ask for you to continue items 76, 77, 104, and 105, and bring back for you the various meets and bounds descriptions that are necessary to implement that.
That would be my motion.
Mr. Nielsen is in agreement with that, if that's the direction.
Okay, we have a motion second to continue. I assume we're talking to the next council meeting? Marcia?
Correct. We'd bring back the items that we could act on at that time with those revised descriptions. And I understand that that motion includes squaring this off the light industrial. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. So the motion on the floor, and I'm going to take just a little bit of liberty, Deb. Do you want to take item 76 and item 77 up together and continue both of those to the October 5th council meeting?
Yes, and 104 and 105, did you say? Or 105?
I'll tell you, we'll take that as we get to it, if we
Okay.
could, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
75 and 76.
Okay, is that all right with the seconder? Okay, the motion on the floor is continue items number 76 and item number 77 to the October 5th City Council meeting. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion passes. That takes us to item number 78, if you would, please, Deb.
78. Sorry. A request by Centerline Incorporated for Hidden Valley Incorporated for a preliminary plat on preliminary plat, sorry, located at 2000 Golden Eagle Drive, and I approve with stipulations.
We have a motion and second for approval of stipulations. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Deb, item number 79, if you would, please.
79 is to approve the new special event application, and I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Let's go to Alderman Malcolm Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I support the special event application. In talking with the police department, primarily the chief, over this, there's still some work to be done around the letter that'll come out, the cover letter, and some changes have been made for that, and we just need to run them through the city attorney and the mayor's office. But this event permit is ready to go.
Okay. Motion on the floor is for approval. Let's go to Alderwoman Deb Hadcock.
I'd just like to applaud Mr. Chapman and Chief Allender for all the work they've done on this and the next steps they're going to do. It'll make our job easier, and I know it takes a lot of meetings and a lot of work, so we just applaud you both for all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Motion on the floor is for approval. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. That does take us to Public Works items. Item number 80, Mr. Costello, if you could go ahead and read in item number 80, please.
Item number 80, acknowledge the report on the status of project plan for TIF number 70, and I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to acknowledge the report. Any discussion on that motion? Let's go to Alderman Sam Quaker.
Thank you, Mayor. I do support acknowledging the report and allowing for another year for the project details to be worked out, but I would like to know the amount of the dollars that is currently allocated in the TIF in terms of the tax dollars that
have been
accrued.
Accumulated?
Yes.
Okay. Marcia, do you have that number?
0.
0.
This district was created in 2008, so it was assessed November 1. Taxes are levied this year, and they'll start making payments next year.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Motion on the floor is to acknowledge the report. Any further discussion on that motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Item number 81, please.
Item number 81, in the Menard subdivision, is to approve a request by the City of Rapid City to consider an application for resolution for a road name change from Menard Drive to Century Road on the Menard Drive right-of-way lying adjacent to lots B and C of the Menard subdivision, more generally described as being located lying between East North Street and Eglin Street. And I will move to continue to November 16th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this item to November 16th. We're dealing with item number 81. Any further discussion on that motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Item number 82, please.
Item number 82, approve with a waiver of right to protest an exception request to waive the requirement to install sidewalk per city ordinance located at 2021 Mona Vista Drive. And I move to continue this to October 5th, 2009.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue item number 82, which is a waiver of right to protest, to the October 5th, 2009 City Council meeting. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Mr. Preston, you're up, sir. It's Bill Wall's fault? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. No, that was not Mr. Wallace's fault. Just enjoying the meeting. We do have 4 items on the agenda this evening, Mayor. First one is item number 83, and that's the main fire station water line reconstruction. Staff is recommending we refer that item back to the Public Works, or to the Public Works meeting on September 29th for recommendation. We also will need a financing recommendation from Legal and Finance, so that's our recommendation, take the Public Works.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to send this item back to the Public Works Committee on September 29th.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Item 84 was the street rehabilitation project, Alta Vista Street and St. Cloud Street. We received 3 bids as listed. Staff is recommending accepting the bid from Hills Material Company, which would include a total base bid plus alternate number 2 for a total of $101,766.75.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to award the bid to Hills Material Company, which is the total base bid plus alternate number 2 for a grand total of $101,766.75. Any further discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Item number 85 is the fire station number 7. This is a siding project, fire station number 7. This is construction project, I'm sorry. We received 6.
Exciting.
Yeah, that'd be very expensive.
I think the chief thinks it's exciting. Everybody else thinks it's boring, but
we received 6 bids. The staff is recommending accepting a bid from Ringel Construction Company LLC in the taking the total base bid, alternate 1, alternate 2, and alternate 5, which is really no charge, for a total of $1,425,600.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to award the bid to Regal Construction Company, which is the base bid, alternate 1, 2, and alternate 5, which is a no charge, for a total award of $1,425,600 and no cents.
That's correct.
Okay, everyone clear on the motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Item 86 is the CSAC, City School Administrative Complex Building ADA ramp improvements. We received 4 bids as listed. Staff is recommending accepting a bid from KRM Concrete in the amount of $27,027.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to award the contract to KRM Concrete for a total dollar amount of $27,027. $1,027. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Okay, that does take us to item number 86A, and this is under council items and liaison reports. I have a item from Alderman Lloyd LaCroix. Welcome to Dakota Panel. Alderman LaCroix, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. In case anybody hasn't heard, we have a new company in town called Dakota Panel, Inc. They took over Friday, the 18th, of the old Marilot. And I do want to extend a welcome to Mayor Hanks, because he was out at the plant on Friday welcoming in Andy Burgess, the new owner, and the team that came in. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments. You know, I mean, with the economy the way it is, for someone to take on the challenge of a new building, a new corporation, it means a lot for this community. I can say this much, you know, not everybody was hired back at the plant, but 2/3 of the employees were, and that does mean a lot. The production side of the plant is, I think everybody in the that worked at Marilot previously had knew the production side, which is the side that takes raw materials, mixes it up with resin and wax and makes particle board. That was a very valuable part to this community, and I think they knew there was interest in that. The finishing side made internal cabinet parts for Marilot, and had about 35 workstations to 40 workstations. And when Marilot pulled out, they took a lot of those workstations with them, so it'd be tough to put all those people back to work on that finishing side. So for 2/3 to still be employed there is very good. Where the other 1/3 ended up having to go, we're unsure at this time, but they were found some work. We don't know what the whole dealings was within the plant, how it was sold and so forth. But I mean, you really got to give it up to Countertops Inc., Andy Burgess, for coming in and taking over. And on a Friday, and by Monday, they were putting out wood on the production side, loading it on the trucks, shipping it out. You know, I'm telling you, when the company sold out, they took everything. They took the recipe for boards, the computers, they cleaned out the plant, and for him to come in within that weekend and be able to at least do that much was phenomenal. And when you can see someone do something like that, I see a bright future for that building and for that plant. And I guarantee you, I think you're going to, within 5 years, I think you're going to see a very, very good company in this town. Thank you.
Thank you for that. No action is required. Thank you for the report. Let's go on. We are on to the public hearing items. This is items 87 through 106, 87 through 106 inclusive. Chair would look for a motion to open the public hearing, items 86 through 106, please. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion passes. We're on to the continued public hearing consent items. This is items 87 through 89 inclusive. Chair would ask if any items 87 through 89 inclusive needs to be pulled from the continued public hearing consent calendar. Marcia?
95, 96, 97.
Nope, we're just dealing with items number 87 through 89.
Never mind, we're good.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay. Anyone else? Items 87 through 89. If not, the chair would look for a motion to approve the continued public hearing consent items, items 87 through 89, per the recommendations on the agenda. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion passes. That does take us to the end of the continued public hearing consent items. Chair would look for a motion to close the public hearings, items 87 through 106, please. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion passes. That just takes us to the consent public hearing items. This is items 90 through 100 inclusive, 90 through 100. Does anyone wish to have any items pulled from the consent public hearing items, items 90 through 100? I have 95, 96, 97, and 100. Did I get that one? See, I was listening. Okay. Any other items? If not, the chair would look for a motion to approve the consent public hearing items, items 90 through 100 inclusive, with the exception of 95, 96, 97, and 100. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion passes. I'm going to go to Alderwoman Deb Hadcock. If we could take up items 95, 96, and 97, I believe those are all recommended, and 100, to be continued to October 5th.
Read those in.
You can actually just make a motion.
95, 96, and 97.
And 100.
And 100 to be continued till
October 5th.
October 5th. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
we have a motion and a second. Jason, we all right on this? Okay. You were looking at me a little bit funny, so I couldn't tell what it was. Okay.
It's glasses.
Okay, motion on the floor is to continue items number 95, 96, 97, and 100 to October 5th City Council meeting. Any discussion on that motion? Let's go to Alderman Ron Kroger.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question for our city attorney.
Yep.
Jason, on item 100, at our last council meeting, we denied the request for an on-sale liquor license at that location. Why would we be continuing the transfer?
Let's go to Jason Green, City Attorney.
At the last council meeting, there was no action taken on the liquor license. The only action that was taken was on the conditional use permit. The alcohol license is actually what's on the agenda tonight. If you recall, this was continued at the last meeting so the applicant could consider whether they wanted to withdraw the application or allow it to be denied. I don't believe they've had enough time to consult with their attorney on that, so it's their request also that is for the continuance here. I recommend continuing. There's no harm in that.
Okay, I guess I can go along with that. I'll just make one comment. If at our next council meeting this is not withdrawn, I'll make the motion myself. Thank
Yep,
you.
very good. Motion on the floor is to continue items 95, 96, 97, and 100 to the October 5th City Council meeting. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That does take us to the end of the consent public hearing calendar. We're on to the non-consent public hearing items. This is items 101 through 106. And let's see, Deb, could you please read in item 101, please?
101 is the second reading of ordinance number 5536, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of the chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, rezoning the within described property as requested by City of Rapid City for rezoning from no use district to public district located east of South Valley Drive and south of South Dakota Highway 44, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion passes. Item 102, please.
102 is second reading of ordinance 5537, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of the chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, rezoning the within described property as requested by the City of Rapid City for rezoning from no use district to mobile home residential district located at 2801 Cactus Drive, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on that motion? This is the second reading of ordinance 5537. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion passes. With up on the ayes, okay. There were no no's, is that correct? Okay. Passes unanimously with one sleeper. Item 103.
103 is the second reading of ordinance number 5538, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of the chapter 17 of Rapid City Municipal Code, rezoning the within described property as requested by the City of Rapid City for rezoning from no use district to mobile home residential district located at 2804 East Fairmont Street. Move approval.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you,
Item
Aaron.
104.
Thank you for that eye, Aaron. 104 is second reading. Ordinance 5527, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of Chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, rezoning the within described property as requested by the City of Rapid City for rezoning from no-use district to general commercial district located west of Valley Drive and north of South Dakota Highway 44.
This is one we want to
Yield.
continue to the October 5th City Council meeting, along with the other two, items 76 and 77, I believe.
Would it be 104, 105, and 106, Ms. Marcia?
104 and 105.
So if we could, Mayor, 104 and 105 to be continued till the next council meeting, please?
Okay, is that okay? We have a motion and a second to continue items 105 and, I'm sorry, 104 and 105 to the October 5th City Council meeting. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Item 106, please.
106 is a request by Dream Design International Incorporated for a variance to the subdivision regulations to waive the requirement to install sidewalk, water, and sewer, and to reduce the pavement width from 26 feet to 20 feet along the access easement as per Chapter 16.16 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, located at 1851 Discovery Circle, and I approve with stipulations.
We have a motion and a second for approval stipulations. Discussion on that motion. Let's go to Alderman Aaron Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And my questions will probably be best directed at Marcia Elkins. When I look at this property and then I look at what we're approving and what's recommended for approving with stipulations, I'm having trouble getting the vision. Do you know what's going on with this property?
Let's go to Marcia Elkins, Growth Management Director.
Certainly, the lot that's being plotted right now is the first phase of this. It's the area shown in yellow where the Visitors Information Center is identified here on the map. If you'll look, the access is being provided off of the one-way road network that provides access currently to the Visitors Information Center. As we've talked about before at committee level, the Cabela's folks do not have a specific plan for the balance of this property. So at the time that this property then is platted, that area will need to go through the plat process or an initial and final development plan. And at that point in time, we can determine exactly where those roads need to be. It did not appear appropriate to identify that this road system be built to city standards because it will not be there in the long term. And so this is providing an interim solution. You previously acted on item 6 on the agenda to allow the water and sewer lines to continue to cross generally in those locations. And this would also waive the requirements for them to build that road to city standard at this time. We do have protections in place to make sure that happens in the future, so that's what the stipulations address.
Okay, Mr. Costello, the
Great.
floor is still yours.
Thank you, Marcia. My final question then regards sidewalks. So I assume that we would be any warp for a sidewalk would be addressed along those same roads that you just highlighted.
Marcia.
Actually, because these are in easements, there will not be warps for those. We could not execute them.
Okay.
More importantly, when the plat of this property comes forward at a future time, then they will be addressing the sidewalks at this location and this location. And I would anticipate there'd be some kind of internal street network formed at that point in time, and we would be addressing sidewalks then.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcia.
Okay. Additional questions? Motion on the floor is for approval with stipulations. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion passes. Mr. Preston, the bill list, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The bill list totals $3,885,775.41. I'd like to add 2 items to this amount. One is Quinn Construction. That's change order number 1 final, the Elm Street Sanitary Sewer, Hillshire Court to East Minnesota Street, amount of $6,779.69. And a bill to the South Dakota Municipal League for 3 annual conference registrations, $300, for a new total of $3,892,855.10.
Move approval as amended.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval as amended to a new grand total of $3,892,855.10. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Mr. Green, executive session.
Yes, for the purposes permitted by SDCL 1-25-2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session for the purpose as permitted under SDCL 1-25-2. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion passes. We're in executive session. Thank you, everyone.